So we've got a couple of functions inside of our class. We got the initialize function, and we have a custom one here called add students. Now, with add students, users will make a call to it, and then they'll pass in a student name, and then the code does the rest. In our case, it appends the value that was passed in to the property called students, which is of type list. Now, I want to create another function inside of our class, but with this function, I want to return a value back to the user. So we're going to utilize the return keyword. We saw this one earlier when we were talking about functions. Take a look. I'm going to create a function here that will give the user the count of how many students are in the course. Okay? So I'm going to call this student underscore count. And we'll use the self keyword here. That's it. I'm not going to give them any other arguments, any other parameters to pass into it, because we're really not expecting anything from the user. We want to return something back to them. Now, all this is going to do, utilizing the return keyword, is it's going to return the length of self.students. And remember, students here, that right there, matches this one right here, which is that list that we get to append to and add students to. So now users at any point, once they've created an instance of this class, they can then utilize the function called student count, and it will return the number of students or the length of that list. So let's try this one out. Well, let's save that. I'll F5 again to restart the shell, and I'll say C1 equals course. We'll call this Python. All right, there we go. So I've got the new course in there, C1 dot. Now, if I get right in and use student count, I'm going to hit my enter key. We got 0. We haven't added any students to this instance. So I can say C1 dot add student. We'll add Joe. C1 add student. Did I goof up in there someplace? Students append. Course object has no attribute called add students. All right, there's always that little. I've done that a few times. So let's try that again. C1 dot. That's the nice thing about the little IntelliSense menu that pops up. I just give that a double click. I know I'm going to get it spelled right. All right, let's put Joe back in there. All right, Joe's in there. So now I can say C1. Let's wait for that little pop-up. There's the student count. I'll give that a double click. Open, close, paren, and there's my count. So again, we're adding additional functionality here just by defining additional functions within the class. We've got ones that users will interact with and actually pass values to. And we've got some that are really just more of a read-only function. I'm not asking you for anything, but I'm going to give you something in return. In this case, we'll return the length of that list object called students. That's it. More functionality you give to your users, the more accessible your objects become, but it takes testing, right? Get in there and test it out. Make sure that things are working appropriately. Always get into the shell and test out your code. But get in here. It's a good opportunity for you to test. Get in there. Let's create this function and make sure you get into the shell environment and test it out.